Hey friends, I am starting what's probably one of the first versions of kind of a longer form of what I do on all of my other social media outlets, where I'm just going to do a little bit longer form about what I talk about in my other videos, which are normally 1 minute. This will probably be 3 to 5 minute videos, just explaining my heart a little bit more. Today I want to talk about a clobber verse. If you never heard of the term clobber verse, what a clobber verse is people taking the Bible and trying to point it at queer people and beating them over the head. That's why they call it a clobber verse. So they're like the go-to scriptures of how people beat down the queer community with scripture. A lot of times you're going to hear people say, it's not that we don't love you, it's that we love you so much that we have to tell you the truth. And that's a really key phrase that you hear a lot in Christianity. And my heart in this video is not to condemn Christians for doing this, because I don't think that there's a lot of people out there that have like malice in their heart against the LGBTQ community. But I do think that a lot of what we hear in evangelical Christianity is just handed down from generation to generation. And that's just what their leaders and their families would do. And that's how people have been trained and taught to deal with the queer community. One of the scriptures I want to talk about is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah in Genesis 19. I'm actually just going to read it to you really quick. It says, Genesis 19, 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom, and Lot saw them. He rose to meet them and bowed himself with his face to the earth and said, my lords, turn aside, I pray you, to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you may rise early in the morning and go your way. This is Lot speaking to the angels of God who came to visit them. The angels said, no, we will not spend the night in the street. But he urged them strongly. We will spend the night in the street. But he urged them strongly. So they turned aside to him and entered in the house, that he made them a feast. And he baked unleavened bread. So you can see that Lot is being hospitable to the angels. There's hospitality. But before he laid down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people to the last man, surrounded the house. You could imagine this scene is kind of scary. Like if you're in your home and all of a sudden all the men in a town are surrounding your house, you're like, what the heck's going on? And they called to Lot, where are the men that came to you tonight? Bring them out so that we may know them. Some translations say, bring them out so that we can have sex with them. Lot went out of the door to the men, and he shut the door after them. He said, I beg you, brothers, do not act so wickedly. I think that's important. Do not act so wickedly. If people were surrounding your house and say, bring out the people in your house, you would think, oh gosh, these are some violent people. And so what's happening in this scripture, if you go down, like you see that Lot does something crazy and like offers his daughters to this crowd. What's happening in this moment in this scripture is that God is not angry with the men for wanting to have sex with men. What is happening is God is upset with their violent behavior, their abusive behavior. You see the behavior of Lot, who is trying to be hospitable in the beginning, but because of Sodom's wickedness of being inhospitable and being violent, God was not angry with a sexual act in this moment. He was angry about abuse. He was angry about these men using sex as an abusive tool. And so you see, in this moment, I think that this scripture, I have experienced this scripture so many times being thrown at me, saying that I am the reason, like Sodom and Gomorrah is a reason to point to me for being that I shouldn't be trans. And I look at this and I say, do you look at me and see me as an abusive character in this story? Because I could look at the LGBTQ community and tell you, like, with the people that I know are very peaceful, very loving people trying to find peace and life. I don't see them trying to go out and abuse people, but what I do see people is taking this book and beating them over the head, and I see that as abusive behavior. We need to be really careful when we use scriptures like this to try and point out the faults in others, and also taking stories like Sodom and Gomorrah completely in the wrong direction. God did not destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because of homosexual activity. I'm sorry. He did it because they were abusive. They were abusive people. And that was against the heart of God.